afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the February 5th, 2025 meeting of Chatham's Historic Business District Commission. As soon as our clerk, Sam Stryber, gets through reading the governor's directives concerning these meetings, we'll do a roll call of the members who are present, and we'll be reviewing the applications this afternoon. Just for your information, the first order of business will be the minutes, and as soon as those are approved, we'll move on to the rest of the items on our agenda. Sam?
Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023, signing of the acts of the 2023 extended certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws 30A, paragraph 20, until March 31st, 2025. This meeting of the Chatham Historic Business District Commission is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that people who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 751-840-492 or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. In accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue, hearing, or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair.
Thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
Okay, now for a roll call of the members who are present. Our regular member, Bob Burns.
Burns present.
Our first alternate,
Tim Gilmore is present.
and our vice chair, Darcy Sequin.
Darcy Sequin is present.
Clerk, obviously, Sam Stryber.
Sam Stryber is present.
Regular member, Doug Grattan.
Doug Grattan is present.
Okay, Dan Silver's here as well. Alrighty, we have a presentation this afternoon before we start the actual applications, and I believe everybody is here. If you'd like to step up to one of the podiums on our right,
You want to do
introduce
minutes
yourself.
or no?
Huh?
Do you want to wait on the minutes?
Huh? Oh, I'm sorry, the first order, yes, minutes. We have to approve the minutes. Just, that's all right, you can all go up there, you can move. Does anybody have any changes or additions, amendments they'd like to make to the minutes?
Doug Grattan will make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Darcy Sequin will second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Bob?
Burns approves.
Kim?
Tim Gilmore approves.
Darcy
Darcy?
Sequin approves.
Sam?
Sam Stryber approves.
Doug?
Doug Grattan approves.
And Dan Silver approves as well, thank you. Sorry, folks, all right. You may proceed. I'll start.
Thank you. We have a PowerPoint up as well. That we're waiting on. Well, I'll start. Oh, there it is. Perfect, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commission members, for allowing us here to present to you tonight. My name is Rio Sacchetti. I'm a senior developer with Penrose. Penrose is a large national affordable housing and mixed income developer. We're headquartered in Philadelphia, but we have a regional local office in Boston, which is the office I work out of. I'll start off before we get into the design and the existing structures on the site, giving a little bit of background here. This parcel of land was identified by the town, and this parcel of land is 1533 Main Street. Was identified by the town as an opportunity to build affordable and workforce housing to help address the housing crisis that's happening on the Cape, and specifically the lower and outer Cape. We responded to that RFP. That RFP went out, RFP for a developer partner went out in early 2024. We responded to it. We were awarded the development rights this past summer. Since then, we've entered into a land development agreement with the town to develop the affordable housing that we had proposed to them in the RFP process. We're here tonight for a couple of reasons. We're looking ahead to filing permits for this development. We intend to file under a comp permit, under 40B, do the affordability. It's a friendly 40B because we're doing it in partnership with the town per the RFP process. And, but before we get to a design that we feel confident submitting to the ZBA, we wanted to engage with as many local and community stakeholders as we could to get as much feedback as we could to improve the project before we go into a ZBA hearing. Also on this property, there are existing lowercase h historic properties. And that's the second reason we're here. Next slide, please. Oh, you got it right there? Great. Okay, so here's our development team for the project. I'm actually joined by my two colleagues, Carmen Chung and Joe Gaddy. They're attending this meeting remotely. We also identified the Penrose Management Company. It's a point I like to make when I do these presentations is we're not just the developer. We have a management company. The management company's been around for over 35 years. It's a professional management company. They manage over 150 properties. So we don't build it and leave. We build, we stick around, we manage it, we're vested in it and in maintaining it. And then on the lower row here is the design team. And this, I've said this a couple of times, so if people have heard this presentation before, it might sound familiar, but I mean it when I say it. This is our all-star team. And so it's Horsley Witten as the civil engineer, Union Studio as the architect, and Crowley Cottrell as the landscape architect. So these not only are these very experienced and designers that we think very highly of, we have experience working with all of them, and they all have experience on the Cape. And specifically, Horsley Witten and Crowley Cottrell worked with Penrose at our Village at Nauset Green project, which was built in Eastham in 2019-2020, and also our redevelopment of the Cape Cod 5 former corporate building in Orleans that's currently under construction, and we're expecting it to open later this spring. We also have attending this meeting remotely our historic consultant, Maureen Kavanaugh. She's with PAL, that's Public Archaeological Labs, in case any specific historic questions come up that neither I or Paul are able to address. All right, so I think at this point, I'm going to hand the reins over to Paul Atman with Union Studio to walk through the proposed design of the development.
Thanks, Rio. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Paul Atman. I'm a principal at Union Studio Architecture and Community Design. We're based in Providence with a small office in Philadelphia, where Penrose has their main office. And we've been established, we were established in 2000, the year 2000, with one primary goal is to save the world from sprawl, and looking to inspiration to traditional neighborhood design, to look at compact development, walkable communities, and also mixed use developments that bring residential and commercial uses together. We are partners, leaders, stewards, artists, and we're grateful to be here and help Chatham achieve their goal of more affordable and attainable housing. We've had a long history working on the Cape in the last 10 to 12 years. We were, about 8 years ago, we worked with Cape Cod Commission to come to terms with the housing demands and development demands of Cape Cod. We came up with a publication called Community Resiliency by Design, And we took a road show to these communities, Orleans, Eastham, Falmouth, Hyannis, and Sandwich, to talk about what sort of opportunities each of those communities might have and available to them, and look at development patterns that are in keeping with Cape Cod and specifically their own communities. And what we found is that on the upper right, there's a variety of housing types, from the very small single family to some larger houses that actually have 6 to 8 dwelling units within a big building, but many people don't perceive that because they're contextually blended in with the neighborhood or the small village center. And from that, we published a Missing Middle publication that many people in the Cape might be familiar with. And so looking at that as our sort of our starting point for Meeting House Lane as well as Main Street here, these are the types of typologies that you can find around Cape Cod that when you look at them in Pleasant Street, Falmouth, there's 8 units on a 1.4 acres, which translates to 20 dwelling units an acre. Main Street in Sandwich is similar with a higher density in this building type, 5 units on 0.27 acres, which equates to about 18 dwelling units an acre. And then a recent project we completed in Hyannis is Sea Captain's Row, which pushes the limits a little higher. So I just wanted to show you that because it gives you, I think, a nice context to understand what we're proposing here on Main Street. And I'll pass it on back to Rio for this.
Okay, thanks, Paul. The one point we want to get across with this slide is that we're treating this as a collaboration with the town. Community engagement, shared vision. So far, since being awarded the development rights post-RFP process, we met with multiple town departments and boards and commissions, including the fire department, conservation, the town historic commission, the Affordable Housing Trust, select board. We're also headed to the planning board later this month. So here's the main cottage, existing structure on the property, the Buckley Cottage. This comes from the Form B, which has been filed with Mass Historic. This cottage is circa 1940. It represents really like mid 20th century residential architecture on Cape Cod. Although there's a Form B that had been submitted to Mass Historic, this structure is not listed in the National Register of Historic Places. There hasn't been any significant restorations or alterations to the property, and there's been no formal historic designation. Next slide. These are some of the smaller cottages that lie on the property. Also, architectural style, common to Chatham. We don't believe that the loss of these structures, which would need to happen for this development to be built, we don't believe it equates to a loss of any unique structures with significant, with historic significance. And here's some additional structures, the sheds on the property. There's some practical reasons, to demo several of these buildings. They're hazardous materials. We had a study done, investigation done in the fall. There's asbestos, lead-based paint. But it really, to address the amount of housing units which we're intending to build here, it's really a land use issue. And so we need to maximize the amount of land on the site to build as many units as we can to address what the town was looking for in the RFP, which our current design is 48 units, and as you'll see when we get into the site plan, why these structures couldn't be preserved and still meet the development plan that we had proposed. Okay, here's the site plan, so I'll turn it back over to Paul.
Okay, thanks, Rio. So this plan shows the proposed in white and dark lines overlaid with the magenta or the orange building footprints of the structures that Rio just presented to you, with the main house and the few cottages and sheds scattered throughout the property. So this site plan represents what we submitted for the RFP, and it's still at 48 dwelling units proposed. It was at 63 parking spaces. There's been changes to the site plan based on some feedback. But the primary organization of the site plan is 2 means of ingress and 2 means of egress out onto Main Street, so that there's a constant open flow of vehicular traffic, but also the network of sidewalks can connect pedestrians to Main Street and down to the Rotary, where there's other businesses. And so with that, this is also laid out to meet the fire apparatus access for the fire chief and the fire department. And with the community building anchoring the middle of the site and along Main Street, on either side, and I should, excuse me, I'm gonna take the pointer. On either side of the community building, there are buildings with front doors facing out onto Main Street to respect that Main Street frontage. And so on the back side of the community building with a community space and office, management offices, that looks out onto a common green playground area, a trellis, bike area, storage, that the residents can use and gather on. This elevation shows what the development would look like from Main Street, with the community building at the center is a 1-story structure, and then on left and right, more formal 2.5-story occupied attic space fronting onto Main Street. Since the RFP presentation, we've been working with and getting feedback from the town throughout the fall. And some of the things that we've already begun to incorporate is adding additional parking along the interior roadway with the parallel spaces that would add for visitor parking and concerns of lack of parking that we previously proposed. Repositioning buildings so that the occupied 3-story portions, which is in only a few buildings this area, are farthest from the neighboring structures on abutting properties. We've decreased the overall length of the community building along Main Street and pushed the programming a little bit toward the back, toward the main green. We've increased the road width to accommodate vehicle access from 22 feet to 24, which the fire department requested. And we've also identified potential roof locations for solar panels based on the orientation of the proposed buildings. This year is the most recent site plan with those changes incorporated in our first pass at a landscape plan. And since the fall, we've been able to get a accurate topographic and existing structure survey, which would include existing trees that we're proposing to save along this western boundary down in the southeast corner, but predominantly a large, I think it's a maple, a really mature maple that is right in the middle of the site. And we've been pushing the building a little bit closer to Main Street and respecting that and incorporating it into the site design. This here is the older site plan, but I incorporated this because I wanted to show you what sort of character and flavor we're proposing in the public spaces. The common green here in the middle, the playground structures for the children on the south end of the common green, a pergola structure for shade and gathering, and then perhaps community gardens, raised planter beds that would align the edge of the playground. as I mentioned earlier, we've incorporated the ridge lines to look at where the tallest ridge lines could be toward the abutting properties away from their structures. So the green one being the one-story ridge line, the red being the highest, and then the blue being the intermediate. So you can see that the blue here is closest to this structure here. It's not a red line, but it's a blue line, and likewise down here in this lower corner. The yellow indicates optimal roof areas for solar panels. And then the community building, this was the RFP presentation, the community building design. So that's evolved. Since then, we're into the technical drawings, working out the program requirements for Penrose, building heights, HVAC systems, and thermal envelope. This year is one of the townhouse style buildings that we were proposing the RFP, and then the larger type, which is a 6-unit multifamily. I should point out that on the left-hand side, this is only a 2-story occupied structure, and only one end that is facing Main Street is occupied on 3 stories. The revised plans as currently this is the community building, so we've added a little architectural detail of a cupola. We're really looking at identifying the materials more closely and really understanding what is happening with the fenestrations relative to the floor plan. Go ahead.
If I could just add to that, Paul.
Sure.
So the community building, this structure is what would house the property management staff, and leasing agent, the social services staff, which we call community impact coordinators, and the maintenance staff with the maintenance workshop and maintenance storage. In addition, this would also have the amenities, which is currently designed as a fitness room, and then a large community room with a kitchenette. That would be a place where stuff would happen like after-school programs. People could reserve it for birthday parties and other type of events. So that's sort of the program for what's happening in the community building. Thanks, Paul.
Yep. So I'll just catch up. And then this is one of the townhouses, 3 units, 2 stories. And one of the other 6-unit buildings. And I'd like to point out that even though this is a small multifamily, every apartment has a front door. So if your apartment's on the 2nd floor, you actually enter at the grade level into your own front door. You open the door, and that's an interior stair open to your apartment up above. So there's no common stairs that people share, and there's no elevator service buildings. And then this here's the larger of the 3 types that we're proposing. And again, one end only has occupied 3rd floor. So,
All right, is there anybody in the, with us here today that'd like to make a comment so far? Anybody? Anybody on the board?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, go right ahead. Hi.
Steve Buckley, from the former Buckley property. And I used to live in a townhouse in suburban Washington, D.C. for 15 years, and they were not row houses. Each one had a different elevation, and so they each had their own personality, so to speak. And I was just going to suggest that to whoever's listening, that it might be good, instead of these all being the same, all being white, that they might have a little more character, a little more neighborhood feel, if they were, if these different doorways, or you can see different sections that resemble townhouses, if they were different colors. I'm not saying colors of the rainbow, but some nice appropriate Chatham type colors that would, like I noticed across from Knott's Landing, the townhouses there have different shades of beige. So at least there'd be something that would give it a little more, make it more interesting aesthetically then. Thank you.
Yes, Doug?
I had a couple questions. The community building, what's the purpose of that? That's gonna have a common area for, gatherings, I guess?
Yes, that's right. So thank you, Paul. So, the current design has, I gotta hold it down. So the current design has changed a little bit. I mean, the footprint is just as minor changes, but, we've sort of rearranged, where the different programs fit. But they're all the same programs. So, for this purpose, I think this is fine to show this floor plan. So as shown on this floor plan, this is the management and leasing office space with a reception, a manager's office, a conference room, their own restrooms, secure file location because this would be a tax credit finance deal, which needs certain financial information from applicants to confirm that they qualify. So that has to be protected and secured. Over here is the social services, which at Penrose we call the community impact coordinators, but they're an amenity for the folks who might need those type of services. Two different programs for maintenance. There's the maintenance shop and then also storage. And the storage could include maybe like a club cadet too, for a bigger site like this, as well as all the tools and materials and replacement you'd need to make repairs to people's units. Here is really the amenity space, which is currently proposed is an exercise fitness room. And right here, what we're calling the community room in the community building, is sort of the open space with a kitchenette that would be furnished, and this would be a room that could be used for different programs or events scheduled for the residents, and then residents could also reserve for, like a graduation party or a birthday party or something.
And how many units are proposed?
48 total
48?
units, yeah.
And you feel that space is necessary for a community this size? Like, we have the community center downtown that has all of these things already existing, but with these 48 units here, you feel this is a necessary structure to have on the site, and with your history of these developments?
Definitely.
Okay.
We wouldn't do this without this.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if folks are familiar with Village at Nassau Green in Eastham, but this is a very similar to what's there. And that one's used, and that slightly bigger development, 65 units, that's used all the time. And in fact, there's one time during a bad storm when the power went out on all the property, there's a generator to this building. And that's where all the residents came, and they were in the community building, which at that property is a little bigger than this one. And they stayed there for over 24 hours. And so, I mean, there's a bunch of other, events that have happened that just aren't popping to my mind. But we feel very strongly about this. In fact, at Penrose, we've come up with our own certain standards that we actually gave to Union. They basically took all the stuff that we said we needed and then just, put it together like I guess like Legos almost into a structure.
And the other comment I wanted to make is I'm familiar with the Eastham project you did, and quite frankly, I feel that landscaping is quite stark compared to what you're proposing here. And is this a realistic rendering of what the landscaping is going to be with the size of the trees and so on and so forth, versus what's in Eastham now, which I feel is, doesn't have a lot of lush landscaping going on currently? Because this looks very impressive, and I'm hoping this is what we end up seeing.
A couple of things. That's a much bigger site.
Yeah, it is,
in terms of acreage. So there was less. We weren't able to really have it as landscaped as heavily as we would on a tighter site, you know, dealing with the same type of budget. So this, even though I think overall probably has less vegetation spec'd and identified, I think it's much denser per square foot or per acre. And then another item, you know, the first couple years after a project's built, it doesn't look, so the renderings show mature trees.
Right.
Right, and it tries to show the property off as best as it could, which it will look like at some point. It's usually not the first couple years after it's built.
But I don't
So-
wanna wait 40 years either for it to look like that, you know?
I know. Well, they say the best time to plant a tree is 40 years ago.
Exactly,
The second best time to plant a tree is right now.
right.
And so we're doing it right now. But we did actually put a lot of effort into surveying what was there on site. So we don't have a lot of this at Eastham. In fact, we really had nothing that was saved. It was mostly like a lot of scrub pines.
Right.
This has some actually beautiful mature trees. Paul mentioned the maple. I think that this right here is a 30-inch spruce. And so they're, actually, you might know better than me, actually. And I think you actually had a comment about this at another meeting about trying to save the trees, which pushed us to do more investigation into saving these, and which resulted in us pushing this building away a little bit and rearranging the sidewalks to save this tree and save these trees. So those are nice aspects of the site that we didn't have at Village at Nassau Green. And so there will actually be mature trees already existing on the property when it opens, which is rare.
Those are the only questions I had, Dan.
Pam, any questions? Yep.
Are there handicap units?
Yes, I don't know the exact count of, is it,
I don't know either, but all the ground floor units are accessible, and there's two different categorizations per the Massachusetts Architectural Accessibility Board.
Yes.
But there are the required amount of accessible units per code.
How many?
I don't know, let's see,
Well, 48, that,
out of the
could be
48, well,
two.
let's see, I'm going to do a quick count, 1, 2. About 20, I would think almost half.
okay.
So that's just a general number, but I can get that number for you tonight.
So,
Okay.
I'm an architect. I'm specifically interested in the trim work. The initial picture you showed a porch without very much trim work on it. But the other porch next to it was. So I want to just
Let's take a look.
there.
Is it this one here?
The one on the right just has a column coming up onto a fascia board, and you have no soffit or additional
Versus this
beam
one?
work. Not that one.
No, versus
That one
this
shows a gutter line.
Yeah.
And that's essential for a porch, that it have gutters. So.
It will, I think this was.
I was looking at your elevations, and you sort of breezed by some, well, like the corner board, 5.5 inches at least. The windows 4.5 inch trim with a 1.5 inch or greater sill. All the houses have 2/1. And it looks like they're all clabbered and painted. You're gonna do some variety, aren't you, to give them a little more character?
Well, I think this is very uncharacteristic with Chatham and Cape Cod. We have lap siding, we have corner boards, as you said, we have trimmed windows with a typical windowsill.
But if you've been here before.
Yeah.
You see there's a lot of shingle work. Are you gonna incorporate any white cedar shingles?
We haven't talked about that.
Okay,
This is what currently, and that's why we're here to get some input.
so we would be looking for, if you're gonna do clapboards all around, then maybe some paint colors might be appropriate, not all white. So it looks like you're walking into a development. Well, you are walking into a development, but that's not the character of Chatham, is development. So we want you to kind of be sensitive to a little more variety. I think your units, A, B, C, D, do have that, but the siding and the windows belie that. So I'm just.
Okay, I just as a response for a design response, and I don't want to be, I'm not being defensive, I just want to give you a little, and other people, a little bit of a idea of why we propose white on white, and the materials that we chose here, not shingles, is we felt that this was a much more formal environment at the downtown or a urban village core that you look at throughout Cape Cod and Chatham. There's very formal Greek Revival architecture that is white on white, and that there's clapboards, and that there's steep pitches, and that the white is a holistic palette that could blend itself in very well, and I think, and with the accent of the doors, they could be, the color could give that individuality for the residents. I'm not saying that this is, we have to stick to this, but I just wanted to share our sort of design thought when we presented this in the RFP and how we're working through that. So I hope that.
I think my comments still stand.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, thanks.
Darcy, you have anything?
Yes, I think Sam and Doug have asked, and you've answered some of the questions that I have, but I have some questions that may be out of our purview, but I need to know so I can understand this project better. Who actually owns this property? Does the town own it? Does Penrose own it? Are you, what's happening there?
We will purchase it from the town, so it will be owned by a single-purpose entity that will create for tax credit purposes, so we can bring in a tax credit investor, but Penrose will be the managing member, face, developer, owner, for the long term.
So the town will not be subsidizing it at all?
Well, no. So part of what we had proposed was a certain purchase price that included a seller note. So I'm not sure if you'd call that subsidized or not,
Okay.
but there'd be a seller note. We may intend, if design changes cause cost increases, like, for example, if we start changing into more expensive siding or more expensive details, we may come back to the CPC. I'm not saying that will happen. Usually we try to solve everything first before we do something like that. But in order to be competitive for the federal and state tax credits, which is approximately 60 to 70% of the funds to build this. So it's the majority of the funds. To be competitive, HLC, which is the state allocating agency, the Executive Office of Housing Livable Communities, they want to see a local contribution. They don't want to contribute the state funds and also the federal funds that they're in charge of allocating to communities where the community hasn't contributed themselves. And that was really the main reason for the seller notes, to show that, we're buying it for the same cost that the town paid for, plus, they're contributing a seller note to push off some of that cost to later years. Our project in Orleans, we actually had received CPC contributions from 8 different communities, which I think is a world record. We got CPC funds from the town of Orleans, but then we went around to other towns because the housing crisis on the lower and outer Cape is a regional crisis. And some towns don't always have the best development sites to build housing. And they're interested in contributing to housing that are in other towns because they know the people that work in their town might live in the neighboring town. And that any dent in the demand that's causing this housing crisis helps the neighboring towns as well. And that range from small contributions to large contributions. Provincetown, Truro, Eastham, Wellfleet, Harwich, Chatham contributed to our project in Orleans.
Well, there certainly is a need for it, for sure. Out of the 48 units, how many are actually affordable?
So there's, right now, as proposed, there's 3 different affordability tiers. There's one, I jotted down, I was thinking this question might have come up, so I jotted down the exact numbers as currently proposed. So we have 16 units at 120% of AMI. AMI being area median income, like the average income for that community.
Which is,
Well,
I have
for this
to ask
community-
it because,
I may have it. I have a colleague on Joe who can help address that and look that up.
Yeah,
While
Leo,
I
I
go,
don't know if people can hear me. I can share my screen for a second and show the income levels that we have for each AMI. Let's see.
great, thank you, Joe.
And can everyone see that?
Yes.
So this bottom chart here has the income ranges.
So these are the 120% AMI we're talking about. So these numbers change. They get published by HUD annually. In this area, they typically always go up every year. And this is, I think, 2024's numbers. 25 units is 60. So these units are workforce housing. Anything above 80% AMI is not usually called affordable housing. It's called workforce housing. The 60% AMI affordable, which is more of a typical affordable unit. We have 25 of those units, and that's for folks making 53,000 to 76,000. This number is, there's a range because there's different types of units, like 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. And so different amounts of household size.
okay,
And then here is the highest affordable units, 30% AMI, which 26,000 to 38,000. Is that helpful?
okay, yes, it was. Okay, a couple more questions. The 3-story, you have a 3-story buildings and 2.5-story buildings. Is there a height restriction that you're exceeding, or is that within the limits of?
It is, it's a 30-foot maximum height in this underlying zoning. So we are proposing 32 to 35. And I think, as you saw in these technical drawings, which are the most current, it's hard to read, but it's, right now, the building height is taken from the finished floor elevation. The civil engineer is doing a grading plan as we speak in the next week or two. So once that grading plan is measured up to the buildings, we can do the calculation and understand what relief or waiver we're asking for relative to the building height.
Yeah, there are ridge lines that will be over the 30 feet restriction, which we'll be asking for waivers from under the comp permit submission.
So you have to go to the zoning board to get approval for that, is that correct?
Oh, 40B.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. That's it for now.
Jim?
Thank you. The housing on the property that's currently there, built in 1940, for the record, that's being demolished, correct?
Correct.
And we've already covered basically handicap access. Do we know how many units are going to be handicap accessible?
We'll follow up after the meeting with the exact count, and we can send it to Sarah if that is okay.
That'd be great. What about the lighting, as far as the property goes, across the board, behind, in the parking areas, and on the street?
Well, we're
We're working on that. We
Yes.
don't, I think, as a.
Work in progress.
Work on progress. There'll be building lighting on the porches, and as much as we can reduce the amount of other lighting, meaning pole light or street light, that'll help. So it'll be integrated with the landscape design too. As you saw from the landscape plan, there's a nice row of proposed street trees, right? So they're going to be.
Those are proposed though, correct?
Yes,
Those-
right
Those
here.
aren't in existence, okay.
Correct, and here, so we have to coordinate that with a proposed lighting.
Understood.
so. And
And what about any signage on the street? Any signage on Route 28?
Well, we don't show anything here. What we typically would do is, we typically have a monument sign, with the name of the project, what's it? But Buckley Gardens, I believe. Is that correct? And then, some info like the address and, maybe the phone number to the management office. I'm not sure where it would be located here. We haven't gotten to that. That's usually later on as we get more developed in the site plan. That's what I anticipate. Were you thinking, like a street sign on a post?
Unknown. I'm waiting for you to tell me.
Yes, so I think it would just be a monument sign, possibly two at either end, which would be like a brick-built sign, maybe 4 feet high, 6 feet high. No, not 6 feet, 4 feet high, by 6 feet wide, something like that.
And now to change subject, what about roofing materials on the housing units? Do we know what that's gonna be?
Asphalt shingles.
Asphalt.
Asphalt.
Okay, great. What about windows? Have we got into that? I mean, we're doing 2/2, looks like, based on the designs.
That's currently proposed, and there'll be vinyl double hung.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, folks.
Yeah, thank you. A couple of questions. So there's 48 individual doors total.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own entrance. Okay, that's good. The other thing is I agree with, I think, Sam and Mr. Buckley. If we could change some of the, it looks really, how many buildings? 10, 12? So how many count?
Oh, 10 total buildings.
They're all white. I'd like to see a little change, and maybe, as Sam said, maybe some cedar, maybe a different palette of colors so that it doesn't look so stark. Because to me, you drive by, it looks maybe like a hospital. So I would ask you to look at that to see if we can maybe dress it up a little bit. And I think that's it. All the other questions have been answered. So-
Okay, I do have a question and a couple of comments. Obviously, a traffic study has been done, has it?
We just received a draft traffic study by Vanass last week.
Has anybody expressed any concern about all these cars going out onto a roadway that just, the town just got through spending all kinds of money on, putting on a couple of rotaries?
So the,
It seems to me there's going to be significant traffic congestion there with all those additional cars.
so the draft of the report that we got back.
If you could
was-
bring that picture down so we could actually see the roadway you headed up before, 28, which is at the top.
This one?
Yes, thank you very much.
So it, and this might change before it gets finalized, anticipates at peak hours in the morning and in the evening, between 45 and 55 vehicle trips. And they said that the existing street infrastructure can handle that with no adverse impacts.
And this is assuming that no one there has any guests, right?
I don't know the answer. I think this is based on data.
You're talking about the people living there. I'm talking about the total flow in and out with guests and everybody else. I mean, you're gonna put a community building in the middle of it. They're not gonna have guests there?
Well, I believe that traffic engineers consider that because they look at historical data of similar projects. So they look at it as a multifamily, and every multifamily has guests.
Was there any concern about the community building being directly on 28?
Concern from other
Well, they assume
commissions.
there's gonna be children around there, and the first thing they wanna do is, run into, if you're gonna have birthday parties and whatnot, they're gonna wanna run into the road.
Well, yeah, that's a good
around
point,
the outside
actually,
of
and that's why we had the green right here behind it. And we wanted this as like a buffer entrance and all the amenities deeper into the
Yep.
property.
And to,
Those aren't magnets to kids like roads are.
I have 5
understand,
kids, so I'm sensitive to that fear.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, the community room here is facing that common green. On this plan, this is Main Street or 28. So all the activity in the entrance, which we've redesigned, the main entrance is off a porch here facing the common green.
Okay, and I too, like Doug, question the need for that community building at all. If you consider all the rest of the developments that were put into the town of Chatham, the only one I know of that had anything community to it was a tennis court. I don't think there's another community building to any development in the town of Chatham. I think that's just an oversized building sitting in the middle of it, just waiting for problems. I don't see how 48 houses need a separate community building to themselves. I can absolutely understand a large maintenance garage there to house the equipment that would be necessary to maintain the grounds. Also, some sort of structure or incorporated in that building, some sleeping quarters and a small kitchen and, shower for the maintenance crew overnight if it's open 24 hours a day, if they have maintenance there 24 hours a day, and some, information booth. But I think that's absolutely ridiculous to have that in the middle. You cannot show me another development that has a community building in it. I mean, Chatham took off forever to get a community development around it. It's just an unnecessary building. And speaking of that building being there, it's the largest one right on 28, and it's the elephant in the room. And also what bothers me, if you go back to the picture of 28, looking at that straight on, and you have 2 buildings on each side of it, if you keep on going. There you go, okay. The curse of all of these type of units or developments, whatever you want to call them, affordable housing, is the duplicity in them. Couldn't you have picked 2 different houses on either side of that community building instead of both of them being the same? That just screams development, low-income development. Nothing has to be equi. Get 2 different buildings on each side of that so it looks like a normal street scene instead of, some sort of cookie-cutter development. Is it necessary to have them both the same?
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, I just don't like the mindset.
It was I guess, a
And I don't
design
think that
idea
building
that we
is-
can relook at.
I don't think that building is necessary, and I'm concerned about traffic, but they'll do a study, study's gotta be done, but to have that large building out there in 28, I don't think it's necessary.
I mean, honestly, if you look at the streetscape, if you're driving or walking down, you're never gonna see this dead on as we're seeing it today. It's a perspective that, and comments were already made, if there's changes of color and other materials, I think there's a lot of redundancy of buildings and all.
As you noticed,
Urban
I haven't said
fabric and
anything
village.
about any of the design of any of the buildings or anything else.
Well,
But I'm not
I'm
gonna
just
sit here and listen to you
suggesting-
try to put a lipstick on that elephant there, and there's no reason in the world why you can't change those 2 the buildings on either side. So that's it.
Okay.
And I think I'll just add something, Tim Gilmore. The traffic flow to me, and I'm not a traffic expert, I see the problems coming out of that rotary and going into Dunkin' Donuts. Now we're talking about substantial increase in cars. That's my only addition to the record.
Go ahead, Sam.
Your response before about the heights of the roof ridge. Just to give you a heads up, the 30-foot limit in our zoning code is a pretty important thing for this town. And we've all had to make sacrifices in order to make that. And I tried to look through the drawings here, and I can't tell that the heights that you have listed there is the elevation or the height above the finished floor or the height above the top of foundation. But we measure from the average grade, as you know, because that's why you're doing this added survey. So, you know, if you have a 28.5, hey, that's probably gonna be up in the close to 30. What is your first floor height generally in all the units?
Do you mean first floor interior?
Floor to ceiling,
Ceiling height, 8 feet.
8 feet.
So we're already
And what's the second floor?
also 8 feet, ceiling
It's
height.
8 feet also
Finished ceiling height,
to finish ceiling height?
yes, floor to
See,
ceiling.
there's some space there, and depending on how you're doing the framing, I would recommend that you look at this really hard, especially when you're close with 22.8, 22.8, 22.5, 28.5, 32.2. You've just got a little bit of fudging there. I don't think an 8-foot ceiling in a bedroom is necessary, but
Well, eight
today,
feet,
most
excuse
of
me.
the houses that we look at have 7.6 ceilings and 7.6 ceilings, so there's a foot.
I beg to differ that. I mean,
Okay.
8-foot ceiling is a very standard ceiling height. Anything
Well,
lower, you're
maybe
building
off Cape.
back into
Maybe
colonial days
off
where
Cape.
it's 7 feet, and you're gonna scratch your head.
But
That
not
is,
necessarily for bedrooms.
well, a bedroom, the structure for the living room, the ceiling for the living and dining room, will, if it's 8 feet, it'll be carried through for efficiency throughout the apartment. It makes no sense to drop a structure over a bedroom to reduce the building height.
Well, I have no idea how you're laying out the plans.
Yeah, okay.
I just have one more thing.
What's that?
I just have one more thing.
Go ahead.
I just want to expound on what Dan was saying about the community center. We do have a great community center, and all the kids gather there. They love it, and I don't think what you're doing is helping anything. I think they're gonna feel segregated.
Absolutely.
That's my impression. You know, the kids are gonna be there, and why can't I be up there with the rest of the kids? Do you really want that? Food for thought.
Thank you. Thanks.
That's it for me.
I concur with my colleagues' sentiments on that respect.
By the way, the average ceiling height of most houses built from 1920 to around 1968 or 71 were 7'4". Just so you'll know, if you don't find it in your book.
Yeah, there's also code considerations.
There's
for
a
ceiling
7-foot
height.
ceiling, 7-foot studs with single shoe and double plate, 7'4.5". That's what we all grew up with around here. 8 foot is not a common, was not a common ceiling
Not
height.
around here.
So anyways, all right, what
Okay.
else you got to show us?
I believe that was it. We
Is
were
there
in
anybody
the
online
questions,
that would
so-
like to make a comment?
Really appreciate
I think Bob has a
having a
comment.
look at
Just one
this.
more question. You mentioned the historic house, the Buckley House.
Yes.
You said
Yes.
that's down. Has it been taken down?
No.
So is that the house is that going to stay or go?
They will all go. We had a comment from Chatham Historic Commission to see if we could find a way to offer it up as, basically as a donation for any group or individual that would be looking to relocate it and save the structure.
Okay, so it's still up, it's still there?
Yeah, it's still
That's
up.
what I thought, I wouldn't buy it today, and you said it's down. So
Yeah.
the other question is, I'd really would like to see this stay within the 30 feet. Figure it out. We've been very adamant about keeping to the 30, and I think we should, without exception, stay to the 30 feet.
We'll look at it.
No further comments.
Closely, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Sarah,
thank
did
you.
anybody online?
So there are no comments online. However, we did get a response about the trees. There is a 40-inch maple, a 12-inch cedar, a 40-inch spruce, a 24-inch spruce.
Bless you.
Sorry. And a 24-inch spruce, all in the common area, that will be saved.
Already.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Great.
Mr. Buckley has
Yes,
another.
Steve?
Regarding the traffic flow, I noticed this drawing here seems to be a previous drawing, because, but the one you showed us where you widened it in response to someone's comments, I guess more parking spaces, was that?
Oh, yes, we actually got two comments. More parking spaces, which we accommodated, we're able to fit in.
Oh, to the microphone.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so that we actually had responded to two comments we received previously, which was added parking, which we did by adding some additional parking locations and adding parallel parking. And then I think we widened the street based on feedback from the fire department.
Okay, and, well, I just wanted to, because I noticed one difference besides in making it wider, of course, the wider you make a road, the faster the cars go, even in a parking lot. And so when we're all talking about kids or other slow-moving people or fast-moving people, whatever, who might dart out and so forth, that would be a concern of mine, that, I mean, we certainly want to make things, trying to make things in West Chatham more walkable. And with the traffic calming and roundabouts and sidewalks and so forth should make it so that more people will be walking instead of driving. And I just wanted to point out, I have a question, because when I see the entrances here, they look pretty sharp, I mean perpendicular. Whereas I noticed on the other drawing, if you pull that up, it looks like they got rounded off.
Let's see which way. There, that's better. That, yes, because our civil engineer did a turning radius with actual fire apparatuses that town Chatham has. So that is, this one is more accurate to that radius that'll be needed for the turn in and turn out.
Okay, so, well, I know, yes, I guess I'm a little concerned that in between fires, people will be flying in and out of, the parking area there, because once, you round off a corner and, somebody's looking this way, and they're already pointed that way, and kids are walking or whatever. So I didn't know if there was something like even some curbing, some cobblestone or something, like what they do around the roundabouts. It's kind of like a rumble strip, you know what I mean, where it kind of
Yep.
trying to get people not to cut the corner. That's just a suggestion to try to make it more, walkable. And the other part is that, will there be any places along those same lines for bicycle racks, or places where people would be encouraged to use a bike instead of a car, or?
Yes, we
Well,
will
why
be.
Steve is up there and he's commenting about the walking town. Where are they walking to, Steve? There isn't any, unlike the Anchorage downswell, that you can walk to Chatham Village Market. What's going to be their accessibility to any shopping of groceries? There is a, I don't know, health center down the road, but this is over a mile outside of town. How do you propose these people to get down there? If they're affordable, can they all afford cars, the two cars? Or I'm questioning the location of the site.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're addressing me?
Well, you were the one that said.
Oh, okay,
you know,
yeah. No,
everybody's gonna
yeah,
walk.
I
Where are
see.
they gonna
Well,
walk to?
I think we've seen more electric bikes, and I think there's a general trend to, yes, get people out of their cars and walking, like to Larry's PX. And with the rezoning that's with West Chatham, what they're looking at, I think the idea is to make it more of a walkable village. So anyway, yes, trying to.
I agree with you in July and August, but this is November. You want to walk there? A walk from that
well,
to,
Dunkin' Donuts
job
seems
lot would
pretty
be,
popular.
in 20-degree
so-
weather, it's not, it just,
Okay.
you guys are doing the best you can, I
Sure.
understand.
No,
But I
no,
think
just,
it's
these
a
are
loud,
just,
there,
these are just thoughts I
no one
want
ever
to.
thinks it's any good place for these, but I think it's a lousy place to put one of these, right
Yeah,
in the middle of
well,
nowhere.
Anyway, hopefully, I mean, with electric bikes, people, there's a danger, I guess, with people bringing them into their units and plugging them inside, and then there's fire, whatever, but I mean,
It is what it is.
that's a relatively new,
I mean, we can't have everything we want.
I
You
know.
I do wish there
I'm
was a
sure-
better
I'm sure
location
that
for it.
Penrose is probably thinking about it also, as far as this is happening in the last, 5 or 10 years, and they've been around for a while, so they're probably trying to figure out how to address that, so, anyway, but, yeah, no, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Anybody else? Anybody online? No? Is that it? Anything else you'd like to say? Did you get what you came for?
Oh, yeah. And
Yep.
more. Good.
I'm online. I have some comments.
Rick Levitt would like to speak.
Oh, thank
All
you,
right.
Sarah. I'm Rick Levitt. I live in West Chatham. As a matter of fact, I even abut this property and have been a strong proposer for the development of this property for affordable and attainable housing. As far as the walking issue is concerned, our whole comprehensive plan, which is now 20 years old, 22 years old, focuses on the development, redevelopment of our village centers, not just West Chatham, but South Chatham, West Chatham, the Crowell Road, and North Chatham. They are all potentially walkable places for people to live. The idea is not to redevelop, not to develop open space out in nowhere. The idea is to redevelop already developed properties in our village centers so that people can indeed live and live in a village center and walk. They're going to drive. Of course they're going to drive. But the idea, what is the state? Didn't it just change its name to the Livable Communities Department? That's what we're talking about here in Chatham, redeveloping our village centers to become walkable, cyclable, drivable centers, safe for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, folks?
Not from us.
No? Okay.
No.
I think we've had some very patient applicants here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
Alrighty.
for your time,
Thank
Mr. Chair. Thank you
Yes,
for your
well,
time,
thank you.
commission members.
Conclude this, all right? Very good. I thank you for showing up and giving us the opportunity to comment. Thank you very much.
Yep, appreciate it.
Yes, certainly do appreciate it. All right, Sam, I think we have
Okay.
some anxious people here.
We have an addition alteration, 25-3, Town of Chatham, care of Rouse Architects. Application to remove, replace, and relocate 2 exterior doors, replace exterior lighting and siding, and install 2 new accessible ramps and railing systems to comply with ADA standards, located at 549 Main Street.
Hello, I'm Brittany Grant from Rouse Architects. I apologize, I had to attend remotely, but I am happy to present our town hall project. I will share my screen, or that works as well. Great. So this is at 549 Main Street at the Town Hall. We are looking at the public restrooms that are located just off of Cross Street at the back of the building. The big challenge that we were presented with was that the bathrooms weren't truly handicap accessible. The ramp access did not accommodate people in wheelchairs, the doorways were not wide enough, or there were not enough clearances. So we took a look at the existing footprint and how we could make this an accessible space. Our goal, if yes, the photos will help show where we are. So this is at the back of the building. There are 2 doors for the men's and women's restrooms. There are currently wood shutter doors on those locations. To the best of our knowledge, those were added after the fact as a maintenance provision to help close off the restroom doors when the restrooms were closed. The second photo shows the area where we are proposing to add a second door, to relocate the women's restroom door too. And the third photo is a view kind of looking right towards the area of the bathrooms. If you could go to the next. Yes. So we are expanding the women's restroom and expanding the men's restroom all within the existing footprint of the space. There was an existing utility closet that we're able to kind of shift into the women's restroom and take that space over. The door to the men's restroom is staying in the same location that it is right now, but we have to flip the door to change the door swing. Then the shaded gray area at the exterior wall shows where the women's restroom door previously was. We are relocating that door to the other side of this space. Yes, if you go to the elevation. So this shows looking straight at where the 2 existing doors are. We are proposing to replace the men's restroom door in kind, but with flipping. Removing the women's restroom door and infilling with clapboard to match, painted to match the existing. The door will be just a hollow metal solid core door, painted the same green that is there currently. And we will be adding railings to both the building and then the outside of the handicap accessible ramp. If you could go to the next slide. So this is the view where we will be adding the women's restroom door. Same door that we are planning to use for the men's restroom, painted the same green, and the siding will all stay as is, patched in as needed, but to match the existing condition. This is where we are proposing a new light fixture. That light fixture will be fairly minimal. Right now we are thinking a white finish, so it blends in a little bit with the wall and you won't notice it as much. And then there will be railings along this area as well. The additional documents show kind of some details around the wood framing for the doors, some details for the railing itself, and then specifications for the door and light fixture. So overall, it's a fairly minimal intervention. We're really focusing on just shifting the doors to make the space more handicap accessible, update the finishes within the restrooms, while still maintaining the character of the building. So if there are any questions, happy to talk through.
All right, Doug?
I have no questions. I think it's a nice improvement to the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Brittany, I'm just going to add a little color to this.
Great.
Thank you very much. My name's Richard Pomeroy. I'm here on behalf of the project. representing the town of Chatham. This project is part of a town-wide initiative for ADA improvements throughout the town. This is one of the larger projects, but Brittany and her team and representatives in my office have been working with the town for about a year now to start implementing the ADA upgrades. And this is the first major project of that upgrade. And we're going to have more projects down the road over the next 2 years. But this is an aggressive one.
Thank you. It's a good one to start with.
Pardon me?
It's a good one to start with.
It is.
Hasn't this had a lot of work done to it in the last 10 years or so?
Well, there's been a decent amount of work done to the town hall, yes, but not as far as ADA improvements. We're also looking at some interior improvements for the treasurer's office and the clerk's office as well. But our first step is getting these restrooms squared away.
Already. Doug?
Like I said, no questions. I think it looks good.
Okay. Sam?
No questions.
No questions.
Jim?
No questions regarding this application. Just outside question. What about Harding's Beach or Oyster Pond? Is that on the agenda down the road, possibly?
I don't know, Brittany, I'm just getting involved with this over the last couple of months, but Brittany, you may have a little bit more information on that?
Just wondering.
Yes, I believe we're tracking Oyster Pond soon. And we're going through a lot of the public spaces throughout the town and making sure they're handicap accessible.
Very good, thank you.
I think our next one is Kate Gould Park, right? We're going to be looking at that this spring.
Yes.
I like what you've done. I guess as a citizen, my only comment would be $400,000 for 2 bathrooms. A lot of money. So I hope there's some gold in there someplace.
Yeah, there's no gold-plated fixtures whatsoever. Unfortunately, we're bound to complete this project under Chapter 149 procurement laws, and it was put out for public bid. And, you know, you're faced with the bids that you receive.
Yeah, it's deep. It's deep. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody in the audience? No? Anybody online? No? Okay.
All right, so Doug Grant will make a motion on additions/alterations. Application 25-003, Town of Chatham, care of Rouse's Architects. Application to remove, replace, and relocate 2 exterior doors, replace exterior lighting and siding, and install 2 new accessible ramps and railing systems to comply with ADA standards located at 549 Main Street as presented.
Darcy Sequin will second the motion.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Bob?
Bob Burns approves.
Tim?
Tim Gilmore approves.
Darcy Sequin approves.
Sam?
Sam Stryver approves.
Doug?
Doug Grattan approves.
And Dan Silver approves as well. Very good, thank you.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Good
Good
luck.
to see you.
Great.
Find a way
Thank
to
you so
bring the
much for
price
your
down.
time.
All right,
Thank you.
Sam?
25-4, Deborah Fontaine, care of Harris Home Improvement, application to construct a deck, replace the roof, shingles, trim and siding, relocate the front entrance with new masonry steps, and install a window in the previous front door location for the dwelling located at 1486 Main Street.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, we're basically just trying to kind of fix this cottage up. It's kind of falling into the ground as it sits, and we're just proposing to do a few minor changes. We're going to change, well, you can see that's the road view. That's the end on the left there is where we're proposing to rip that step off and frame a new 8-foot wide deck by the width of the building, which is 14 feet. It's going to be synthetic decking with synthetic railings, gray decking, white railings. And then that door on the front will be coming out, and that existing step is going away. You can kind of see there on that elevation. Can that pan over to the right a little bit? But we're going to relocate the front door over to the right to kind of improve the kitchen space, and we're going to install that new double casement window there, which is just going to be a vinyl double casement window with grills to match the existing, and then just basic cedar sidewall, asphalt roof, and those are pretty much the aesthetic changes from the outside. And then it's gonna have a new masonry step built where the new door is going, so.
Okay, Bob, do you want to start us off?
No, I think it looks fine. I have no questions.
Okay.
Kim?
I think it looks great, no questions.
Darcy?
Yeah, nice improvement.
Sam?
I wanted to ask, are you going to replace that bulkhead?
Yes, yep.
Okay. I see it goes higher on the house. Is that because the basement floor is higher?
Yeah, it's like a Cape Cod cellar, so it just has the all the mechanicals right there, and then it's crawls, dirt crawl space everywhere. So yeah, we have to keep the same profile bulkhead unless we change the whole foundation there. So we were just gonna replace it with the same type.
Is the door that you show in the packet here, the door that's going to be the new front door?
Correct, yeah.
I'd advise a little wider platform when you come out the door. I mean,
Like 4 foot
people
or,
often say goodbye
yes,
standing half out of the house.
yes.
So, it's
A good size
it's a
step.
very nice transition, and it makes the house much more graceful to approach.
Noted.
No, I think it's a great improvement, no questions.
I think it's a great job.
I did want to bring up too, and it's, there's a separate little cottage on the property that, down the road, the homeowner has applied to get the gas removed from that building. It's kind of falling into the ground. And it'll be a separate application, but she wants to get rid of that structure entirely and just kind of fix the landscape there down the road. So she's just trying to improve the property. She's been out in California, and she's going to start using it a little bit, family property, so.
Okay, so under applications, Doug Grant will make a motion, application 25-004, Deborah Fontaine, care of Harris Home Improvement. Application to construct a deck, replace the roof, shingles, trim and siding, relocate the front entrance with a new masonry step, and install a window in the previous front door location on the dwelling located at 1486 Main Street as presented.
Darcy Sequin will second the
The
motion.
motion is made and seconded. Bob?
Bob Burns approves.
Kim?
Tim Gilmore approves.
Darcy Sequin approves.
Sam Stryber approves.
Doug Grattan approves.
And Dan Silver approves as well. Very good, excellent.
Thank you very much.
What do we got now, Sam?
We have a sign,
job.
24-137, the West Chatham Store, care of Edward Sebring, second. Application to install a ground sign located at 39 George Ryder Road. We have a determination from the Central Permitting Planner, Sarah Clark. She states that the proposed sign complies with the sign bylaw.
All righty. I understand she's online?
No,
No, the applicant is not here.
at all.
What's that?
He's not here at all.
Not here at all?
No.
Well,
Okay, all righty.
Continue.
halfway wouldn't work.
Yeah, well,
I would continue.
all right.
it.
Do you folks want to move to continue the, we can do that, can't we, Sarah?
I think we should.
I'd make a motion to continue it.
I'll second that motion.
Bob Burns in favor.
Tim Gilmore in favor.
Are you continuing to your next meeting, which is February 19th?
Yes.
Sure. I agree.
Motion is made and seconded?
Yes.
Okay, Doug?
I approve.
Sam Stryber approves.
Darcy Sequin approves.
Tim Gilmore approves.
Bob Burns approves.
Dan Silver approves as well. All righty.
All right, we have an administrative approval and an exemption. 25-5, Susanna Nickerson, Casalt Roofing, ratification of a certificate of administrative approval to replace the rubber roofing system on the structure located at 606 Main Street.
So this application was
questions? Nope.
reviewed by Robert Burns and Tim Gilmore, and it is just the flat roof on the main structure as shown on the screen.
You sent those two out to the same place,
At least,
same day?
at least I
They
didn't have to
they
climb
signed
up.
off it on two
We,
different
for the
days.
record, we just left earlier today. We've been there surveying.
So it's the roof that's got the red line around it?
Yeah.
Correct.
I see.
I couldn't climb up there. I tried to climb up, Sam, but
No, you have to get far away and then,
All right, Doug.
Okay, so Doug Grant will make a motion under administrative approval / exemption. Application 25-005, Susanna Nickerson, care of Casalt Roofing, ratification to certificate of administrative approval to replace the rubber roof system on the structure located at 606 Main Street as presented.
Darcy Sequin will second the motion.
Motion made.
Bob Burns approves.
Tim Gilmore approves.
Darcy Sequin approves.
Sam Streiber approves.
Doug Grattan approves.
And Dan Silver approves as well. Doug?
Doug Grattan makes a motion to adjourn.
Darcy Sequin will second the motion.
Bob Burns approves.
Tim Gilmore approves.
Darcy Sequin approves.
Sam Streiber approves.
Doug Grattan approves.
Dan Silver approves as well. Thank you, ladies,
Thank you, thank you.
town staff.